Matt, you're up. Matt, Kelvin. Thank you. Good evening. And thank you, Town Board, for having us in. We're very excited to share some things that's going on with our company and our proposal for Publishers Parkway. So like Tom said, I'm Matt Kelvin. I'm the owner, president, and CEO of Kelvin Industries. With me here tonight, I have Darla Lacey, our Director of Finance, Joe Felici, our Director of Operations, Mark Lockerbie, who's our, whatever you know, just busting his chops. Mark recently retired. He was our CFO and now a hired consultant. And, very instrumental in what we're trying to accomplish here as well. Also with us is Sarah Kostic from Kostic Engineering. She's been helping us out with putting the proposal together. So before we get started on it, I'd like to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. Next slide, please. So we are a precision sheet metal fabrication company. So for those of you that are not familiar with manufacturing, in particular sheet metal fabrication, what that means is we bring in raw material, primarily steel. We bring it in sheet form, sometimes in a coil, sometimes as a tube. And we process it. We cut it, we form it, we fold it, we sometimes insert some hardware into it, we weld it, both manually and robotically. We do a lot of robotic welding. We send it out for finish, and then we assemble it. And everything we do is business to business. So it's not like you're going to go to McAlpin Industries and buy one of our products, right? We don't sell anything directly to the consumer. But everybody in this room tonight has interacted with our products in some shape or form. So if you've ever ridden on a high-speed train or an electric bus, or if you ever ordered anything online, that process of automation from the warehouse from getting on the shelf to your front door, we have a lot of parts that help out with that. And if you ever bought anything in a store and you used a self-checkout kiosk, we build a lot of sheet metal components in that. So that's some of the industries and the type of parts we build. And Russ, I definitely would like to know how many sheet metal parts are in those beds, those hospital beds. $40,000 a stretcher, that's a market we got to look into. So that's what we do. And who we are, we're a family-owned and operated third-generation company. My grandfather started 60 years ago. We're celebrating our 60th milestone this year. Grandpa went from the family dairy farm on Salt Road here in Webster to sheet metal fab, so some ties there to the town. We have quite a bit of certifications within the company. I listed ISO 9001 here because most people are more familiar with that one. We are a veteran-owned small business. We're also a profit-sharing company. We formally introduced this program to our associates 7 years ago. And in a couple weeks, we're going to have our annual holiday luncheon where we're going to announce that we're paying profit-sharing again for the 7th year in a row. We're very proud of that as well. Community involvement, we've been getting involved with a lot of local trade associations trying to build the welding trade within Western New York. We've been working a lot with RTMA. We've been working at the Rock with Your Hands events the last 3 years. And we've been working with local high schools. In fact, last week we were at Fairport High School, I believe, or Career Day. And tomorrow Joe's going to be at Webster High School to talk to a tech class. So we're trying to build interest in manufacturing early on. And then from a sustainability standpoint, we put our EcoVadis bronze score here. We are registered on EcoVadis. A company our size, you might be surprised to hear that we actually track our carbon footprint. A lot of companies our size don't do that, don't even know how to do that. So we do that. We're registered on EcoVadis. We're bronze, which basically means we're in the top 35% of companies that are tracking their sustainability and how well we're doing with that. So that's who we are. The next slide, I did put a list of core values on here. I'm not going to go through them all, but this is really who we are. This is our company DNA. This is how we perform on a day-to-day basis. This is how we do our performance appraisals, and this is how we hire. We hire for culture first and skill set second. Okay, next slide, please. So why Webster? This is the property we're here to talk about tonight, Publishers Parkway. But we didn't we didn't throw a dart yesterday and found ourselves looking at Webster properties. This has been a long time coming, to say the least. First and foremost, I'm a lifelong resident of Webster. I grew up here. My wife and I are raising our kids here. Our kids are in the Webster schools. We're both heavily involved in youth sports in the town. And I couldn't love the idea more of having our company in Webster as well. So how did we get here? About a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, our senior staff team was doing our annual strategic planning, and we quickly found that we needed more space. And when we took a look at all the facilities we're currently leasing, and when those leases are up and the growth we're expecting in the next couple of years, we needed more space. The next step, we took the opportunity to create a couple of heat maps on where our associates are driving from to come to work, along with our key leadership. And along with a couple other variables, we narrowed it down we wanted to be east of the city, but not too far east. We need to be close to the thruway, and we need to be really close to a major highway. So we narrowed it down to 4 towns, and we talked to all 4 towns. And I was very happy with the response I got from Webster. I think one of my first calls was to Tom. Tom put me in contact with Matt Chatfield. We looked at a couple properties, nothing really shook loose at the time. Then I had another deal going on with another property. That fell through, unfortunately. Fortunately, I wouldn't be here if it did. But about 3 months ago, I sat down with Matt and Josh, and they brought up the map of Webster, and we just started looking at different properties, try to identify who owns it, and would that be a good fit for the company. So we found about 6 or 7 properties, and Mark and I had our homework to do. And at the end of the story, this one shook loose. So that's why we're here today. I just want to give a background on that. All right, next slide. So this is the concept that Sarah's team helped us put together. And what you see here is the long-term proposal. So it's a total of 300,000 square feet. But the short term would be the initial need, which we think is going to be about 100 to 120,000 square feet. We're debating that internally right now. Now, a couple things that we like about this property is we believe that the utilities are sufficient for what we need. We're in the process of putting our rural service letters together, or the application for our rural service letters. That's going pretty well so far. Also the area, it just seems like we fit there. We're a light manufacturing warehousing company. Calgary Automation to the west occupies nearly 400,000 square feet. Show Management adjacent, 160,000 square feet. So it seems like it's a good fit for us to be right there in the middle. We've gotten a little bit of a chuckle between our team because this is right next to a football field and an ice skating rink. Our facility in Walworth, we share a building with a sports complex. And our facility in East Rochester, we share a building with pickleball courts. So maybe football and ice skating is the natural fit for us here. A couple other things that we think is a great fit here is this first initial building represents job growth about 20 to 25. These are going to be positions that have to do with robotic welding, programming, hard coat technicians, engineering, some pretty good jobs that we're going to be able to create there. One of the things that I talked about earlier about working with some of the high schools, our senior staff team continues to talk about bringing up the next generation. And welding has been the biggest need for us over the last 5 years, but we're starting to see a need in other areas of the manufacturing, laser cutting, press brake forming. So we have a long-term plan, at least this is the dream, to put an education center together so that we can continue to teach these generations coming up about manufacturing. We think Webster is a great place for that, and being across from the high school, we feel like we have a lot to offer there. One thing you might notice on the top of the screen here, we left the northern portion of the property empty for now. We're leaving that undeveloped. Early discussions with the town, there is desire to develop that. I think one of the things I heard was a possibility of a new library someday. That's something we're very interested in talking to the town about. We want to be a part of that. More importantly, we want to develop a long-term relationship with the town of Webster. I had a chance to walk the property a couple weeks ago. Mark and I did with 2 environmental scientists. And was an interesting walk. I've never seen so much poison ivy in my life, but we got through it. But there's also a problem with the property where the ash trees are dead. And if they're not dead, they're dying. So that insect infestation that took over Western New York over the last 4 or 5 years, it's really hit this area pretty hard. But our intention is to treat this facility like all our facilities. We take very good care of them. We'd like to keep a clean building. We're not the type of manufacturer that has equipment stored outside or materials that need to be stored outside. We'd like to keep a very clean building because it's important for our associates that when they drive to work, they can be proud of where they're working, impress our customers, and certainly our community. From a sustainability standpoint, this is something we look at all the time. Like I mentioned, we're one of the few companies, especially in our size, that can track their carbon footprint. We're taking our sustainability efforts to the next level with our next facility. So we're actively researching geothermal heating. We're still trying to get our arms wrapped around that one, but solar energy is something we're taking a strong look at, as well as rainwater reclaim. So there's a lot of sustainable efforts going there. So with that being said, I'd like to answer any questions about what we put together in front of you today. Of course, I got Sarah here to answer some questions you might have for her as well.
I don't have any questions. I like what I hear. I am familiar with your company. I love the fact that you're coming home to Webster. I like what I hear on the education centers, the sustainability, the future generations, which has obviously served your company for 3 generations. That's something that you live. And of all the plans that we have looked at for this property, this is the first one that really excites me.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I like the fact that you're working with local high schools too. I think it's very important to bring in young kids up through learning trades. I don't think we put enough emphasis on trades for generations, and not only in the state but in the country. The other quite my own question I have is if you worked with recruiting from BOCES at all?
We have, yeah, and actually quite a few facilities, and still actively.
That's fantastic.
Well, I see here that you are veterans-owned small business as well, so I thank you for that service. And how soon are you thinking to proceed with this project?
Great question. So ideally, as of right now, and that's one of the great things about our industry is the only constant is change, but as of right now, we believe we need to be in the new facility by mid-26 at the latest.
Because I know we're in the process of doing our master plans. I'm hoping that after everything is settled and all the zoning and things like that is in place, and this will be perfect, and the timing, be aligned with each other.
Thank you.
I think everybody said it all. The other thing, I think a lot of, or at least a couple different senior living developments were considered for this space. I think this, as Patty said, is exciting. It fits with the use. It's not going to have the traffic that a senior type of living, senior homes would have. I think it's great across the street from the high school. It's wonderful that you're from Webster. My son is in school for welding, so for that reason,
Fantastic.
it is a growing need. So it's exciting to hear that that's coming here. Who knows, maybe it could be an opportunity for him to be great.
Yeah, let me know when he graduates.
May of 25.
I have to say I'm biased because I know the McAlpin family. His grandfather, his grandmother and grandfather still live here in Webster. It was really one of my mentors growing up because my father and his grandfather were good friends. And the McAlpin name, the McAlpin Industries, they do things the right way. They always have. And it permeated down from Frank, his grandfather, right to his father, Ken, who was the second generation. And now it's with Matt, third generation. I mean, the apples don't fall far from the tree. So I'm biased. I think this would be great. And what I really appreciated about Matt and the crew coming in a month or two ago is that I take it it's the dark orange is the first building.
Correct.
And that's the farthest, you know, it's closest to 104, but the farthest, you know, from Publishers Parkway. They said, one, they were hoping that he could build this complex over 10 years where it wasn't seen from the road. But two, because of their other facilities that they have, and they mentioned a few of them, as certain things age out or leases are done, this is a 10-year plan to get their whole operation here. And they saw right from the beginning that we need to approach this with the board, planning board, zoning board, showing the full 10 years, and not just say, hey, let's just show you this 100,000 square foot building in the far corner here. Because they do things the right way, and they totally understood it. They come back in 5 years for these other things, totally different town board, totally different planning board, totally different zoning board. So I'll get off the McKelvin soapbox, Matt, but
Appreciate the
you know.
comments. You mentioned traffic earlier. You know, that was one thing that we did take a close look at when we looked at the property, and you know, the majority of our associates' shift starts at 6 a.m. So you know, the timing of the traffic in that area will work out great.
And Ginny, I love your question because I know that this was kind of like, let's have Matt and the crew come in and show this. And then I know that Josh and Matt Chatfield and Matt and the whole crew here have talked about, okay, based on questions, comments, thoughts, it's very possible that we'll be hitting town board, planning board, zoning board, actions on this and all that goes into that within the next month or two. So that goes to your timing. You want to build a building and be in by mid-26, I got news for everybody, that's a year and a half away. So, thanks, Matt.
A lot can happen between now and then too. So
That's true.
we were just talking about, well, if we can get it done by the end of 25, we might have use for it. So. Keeping an open mind about it.
Sure, sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.